Cool. So this is sort of a series that we're doing in which I just wanted to sit down and talk to people who are experts in sort of different aspects of the craft of streaming.
Sure.
It's gotten so complicated, and it's such a expansive subject matter that there's so many things to talk about, like within the expanse of streaming. Last week we talked about building a personal brand with Damn It Rooster, someone who's got like a really unique brand, and he's got his whole aesthetic and he's got it nailed down to a T, and it was great talking to him. But this week I wanted to talk about something that not a lot of people talk about in streaming, and something that's been, I don't want to say a problem, but definitely a trend throughout gaming culture and streaming and content creating and all that. And that's how difficult it can be to maintain physical fitness as a streamer. I know that streamers, they are sitting down for 8+ hours a day, or sometimes even longer than that. There's a ton of time that you spend sitting down, whether you're editing as like a YouTuber or whether you're streaming as a streamer. I mean, there's always video to edit. There's always games to check out. There's always things to do. And you're almost always sitting down. So there are a couple of reasons why I wanted to reach out to you, TyFighter, if I might, or I can call you Ty if you don't mind.
Either way is fine.
There's a couple of reasons why I wanted to reach out to you and chat about physical fitness and all that. But I'd love to hear from you why you're sort of the expert in this matter, just because you're involved in so many things regarding physical fitness and streaming.
Yeah, so I kind of fell into the fitness world on accident. And I know that's weird to say kind of first thing, but for a long time I was a biology student. I did my bachelor's in science and biology at the University of California, Irvine. And at that point I wanted to get more qualified to go into PA school. I was interested in becoming a physician's assistant.
Sure.
But those schools can be pretty competitive. They can be pretty hard to get into. And so I wanted to get some more education under my belt before I applied.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of the graduate programs in Southern California are very impacted. There's thousands of people that are looking to get more educated there. And with all these people, there's high demand, there's high cost. And so I needed to move out of state in order to find the right fit for me.
Sure.
Right around that time is when my brother was getting married here in Boise, Idaho. And so I was up here for the summer. And I figured I'd stop by Boise State and kind of see what programs they had to offer.
Sure.
And that's when I fell in love with the kinesiology department. And kinesiology, for those who don't know, is basically the study of exercise science and strength and conditioning and nutrition and basically everything that goes along with getting fit and becoming an elite athlete and such.
Sure.
Now, this is not to say that I am an elite athlete. I'm far from it. I sit at a desk most days and do very little relative to the big players, but I know how it all works.
Right.
But anyway, so while I was doing that program, I was bartending to keep my head afloat, money-wise. And one day I was working behind the bar, and a guy comes in and he's wearing a bodybuilding.com shirt. And within our city, within Boise, bodybuilding.com, it's like everyone knows that they're based here. It's it's kind of one of the classic, started in their garage and became a very big deal companies. And so a lot of people know and respect the fact that bodybuilding started in Boise in 1999. And so when I see that shirt, it's like, oh, hey, like he works for that company. Great. Like that, they have a great local presence, and that's awesome.
Sure.
And so I kind of put my hat on and I started talking him up a little bit, like, hey, like, I'm working at I'm doing my master's in kinesiology at BSU. I'm learning X, Y, and Z. Like, how can I help you and be a part of what it is that you're doing?
Right.
And so we ended up talking for like an hour, kind of going back and forth about what it is they were doing. And he ended up offering me an internship on the spot with their private label department. And so that was like the big break. That was the moment that like really changed me from I'm going this way to I'm going that way.
Sure.
And so throughout that summer and throughout what ended up being the following year, I spent pretty much all my time at work researching every ingredient that exists in the sport nutrition space. And there are hundreds of them.
Right.
And they all have different, mechanisms and claims associated with them. And so over that period of time, I went from being kind of a biology pre-med student to being kind of a sport nutrition expert.
Sure.
Because I got the opportunity to spend more time kind of studying that space than almost anyone else has the chance to do. So that's kind of how I became what you call an expert at this space. And so I'm thankful that I'm able to take my love of video games and then also add in kind of my little specialty of sport nutrition, and hopefully pass on some of that knowledge that I was able to gain there.
Yeah, perfect. I think as far as you being an expert, I think your expertise is so special in the way that it crosses over with your video game expertise, right? Which you almost never find in this industry. And I think that's why it's so interesting. As far as your gaming background, if your sort of health and nutrition background is one half of you and your gaming background is the other half, how would you describe that quickly and how you came to become a mixer streamer?
Well, I've been playing video games since I could get my hands on a Game Boy Color. Game Boy Color. Pokemon
that was my first
Red
too. That was my first as well.
There we go. Yeah. So that was the original for me, and I never looked back. So I was a Nintendo man for a long time. I did Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, and then the N64, and then the GameCube.
Right.
And then after the GameCube, everyone was playing Halo 3, and so Halo 3 is when I switched over to the Xbox 360.
Yep.
And I've been Xbox ever since. And
great.
I played all through high school with my high school buddies, and then when we were in college, and I lived, in the dorm and in apartments with friends, Call of Duty was how we made apartment decisions. Who's taking out the trash today? Oh, we're gonna play Black Ops and do the gun game, and whoever loses gun game has to take up trash. And so that was a major part of all of our lives for a very, very long time. And then since then, since college, I still maintain a certain level of free time, and I've always used it for gaming just because I've loved it.
Sure.
And then about a little over a year and a half ago, I kind of decided I want to embed myself in the community of gaming a little bit more, because for a long time I was just kind of a gamer in my room, and I wanted to get to know more people in the space, and so that's when I started streaming.
Interesting.
And that's how I ended up here.
That's so funny. You say that you manage the dorm chores and the household chores through Call of Duty. We did the exact same thing, but we did Soul Calibur was our game.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a good one.
It was good because it was it's not a particularly skill-based game. Your sword is 10 feet long, so you just swing it and someone flies off the map, and it's because I have to take out the trash this week.
Yeah, and it was always great because it was 100% respected. There was never if I lose and then I'm gonna try and fight it. Everyone respected the gun game.
It's undisputable.
That was just the way it was gonna be. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, well, let's dive into sort of what we're here to talk about, which is this whole health and fitness thing when you're a streamer.
Sure,
it's tough to maintain, and the thing that sort of piqued my interest when you were talking about your background is your background in nutrition, especially because there's such an issue with maintaining your energy levels when you're inside and you're in front of a computer, right? For one, but for two, you're expected to stay lively. You're expected to be animated pretty much 24/7 for really long periods of time.
Yeah.
So I guess my first question is, what do you recommend for maintaining that from a health perspective?
So the answer to that question for a lot of people right now, or the way that a lot of people are addressing that question, is supplements. I see it every day. People are posting about it all the time. People are getting sponsored by those companies. And obviously these are very high caffeine. They got a lot of other ingredients in them, and I've definitely spent some time looking into the formulations for these, and I have opinions, positive and negative, about them. But I think the best way to address the right way to do it is, or at least what I can consider the best way to go about it, is just making sure that you maintain a balanced diet. So everyone has what's called a resting metabolic rate, which is how much energy your body burns over the course of the day, were you to just sit in one spot and do absolutely nothing, which for many streamers is the case. And so your body requires X number of calories just to survive throughout the day, and figuring out what that number is extremely important. I know there's calculators online that you can use. Mine, if I were to lay in bed and sit still all day, my resting metabolic rate is about 1,700 calories a day.
Okay.
And just for reference, I'm a pretty big guy. I'm 6'2". I weigh about 230 pounds. So that's pretty high. People who are smaller will probably be lower.
Sure.
And that's barring any metabolic oddities or anything like that.
Right.
But so knowing where your metabolic rate is and then adjusting your calorie intake appropriately is very important.
Sure.
And then once you have that calorie total, you want to make sure that your macronutrients fit it. So macronutrients are your carbohydrates, your proteins, and your fats.
Right.
You want to make sure that you have a balanced diet between those things to make sure that you're not overdoing it in one way versus the other. So you don't want 1,700 calories worth of chips.
Right.
You don't want 1,700 calories worth of beef meat with a lot of fat. You want to have, I think the proper split that is considered normal right now is about 60% carbs and about 20% protein and about 20% fat, and that's
Right.
plus or minus depending on your exercise goals. So,
right.
yeah.
I don't think anyone would be confused if you told them, to eat healthy, to maintain their energy levels and all that. But the special case when it comes to streaming is these supplements, like you mentioned, and you said you've got opinions on each supplement, and I'd like to hear your specific opinions on those, because everyone is out there drinking G Fuel and is sponsored by G Fuel, and some people drink a ton of coffee. Some people take like caffeine pills and all that. I'm not too versed in that entire world of supplements. Is that a healthy way to maintain your energy level if you don't have as much time to cook or instances like that?
So if your only goal is to get caffeine, then coffee works actually really well, because if you're just drinking black coffee, then it doesn't have any calories in it. There's no carbs, there's no fats. There's actually very little to coffee besides
bean water.
Besides the actual coffee itself, which is just this very light extract that doesn't have a lot to it, and the caffeine. And so if that's all you want, if caffeine is just what you're going for, black coffee's actually pretty stellar, besides the teeth staining. I'm not a big coffee drinker, so I don't like the smell of it very much.
Oh, really? Okay.
But the frustrating part for me from a formulator standpoint, and I've worked with the formulation of products for BBCom as well,
right?
Is the idea of what are called proprietary blends. And you may have seen these on G Fuel labels, on GamerSupps GG labels, on dozens and dozens and dozens of products within the supplement industry. G Fuel or the others are by no means the only offenders on this one.
Right.
And when I say offenders, that's kind of a relative term, because this is a legal practice. They're not breaking any rules by doing it. But it's the idea of listing out all the ingredients that are in your product, and then adding up the weights of those ingredients, and then just putting one total weight on the side. So I have 10 ingredients, and those 10 ingredients together weigh 5 grams.
Right.
And so there's some information there. I know that there's caffeine in this product. I know that there's citrulline in this product. I know that there's these antioxidants in this product. But the scientist in me gets a little worried, because I have no idea how much. I don't know how much of X is in here. I don't know how much of Y is in here. Thankfully, I think G Fuel made the right decision and decided to list how much caffeine they're actually using, which is good. Sometimes they'll be nice enough to tell us, and that's actually one of the most important ingredients to list weight-wise, because it's so easy to go overboard with the caffeine.
Right.
But if the question is, are these products inherently unhealthy?
Exactly.
The answer is usually no.
Really?
Usually, if you take them within reasonable doses, if you're not going overboard on the number of scoops per day or number of scoops at once, if you're tolerant to the amount of caffeine you're getting, generally the ingredients within these products have all been vetted. They've all been studied by researchers and looked at by the FDA and given the stamp of approval as these ingredients are safe for consumption at the recommended levels.
Wow.
And a lot of these ingredients have been taken over long periods of time, and we don't see any real patterns of adverse events or anything like that. So I'm not pumped about the fact that I don't know exactly what's in them.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there's thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people taking caffeine products every day. And the FDA isn't worried, so I'm not really worried. And they look at lots and lots of data.
Sure. Honestly, that's super interesting. I half expected you to say something like there's this chemical in it that nobody is talking about, or something like that, just because that's how it's always been with supplements, right? I mean, when energy drinks started coming
I have
out,
one right here, so I'm just like looking at it real quick.
When energy
we got
drinks
one at
started
work
coming
one
out,
time a while back.
when energy drinks started, arising, like 10 or 15 years ago, whatever it was, they seem so innocuous. And they seem so exactly, and that's why I assume that these supplements would be bad.
That's an entire different realm. And if you were to say, Ty, what are your feelings about sipping on Red Bulls and Monsters all day?
Right.
That's an entirely different conversation, because they're coming with all this sugar and all this extra stuff. And that makes a huge difference in calorie intake. I think a can of Monster is something like 400 or 500 calories worth of sugar. Like it's a lot. So G Fuel does a pretty good job on the carbohydrate. They don't have any sugar technically, but they include maltodextrin. So it is a starch. You are getting calories from that drink. So that's something to be aware of. The amount is very low, but it's not 0 calorie.
Sure.
And then there's another brand, GamerSupps GG. Their scoop is actually very, very small. It's very concentrated. And they do not have any maltodextrin, no sugar, no starch. So there's actually no calories in that one. But yeah, from an energy drink standpoint, I don't like those.
Okay, yeah, no, that's good to know. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people aren't aware of things like that. Aside from these supplements and energy drinks and stuff like that, I'm glad we were able to parse that out, figure out sort of what's good and what's bad there.
Yeah.
What are some like quick and easy workouts that people can do at home? I know a lot of people don't have time to go to the gym. A lot of people don't live near a gym and stuff like that. Do you know of any quick and easy workouts just off the top of your head that people could engage in?
Well, I mean, it all depends on what you have access to.
Sure.
So, I mean, if we go for the most simplest form, body weight exercises are obviously something that 100% of the people in the world are capable of doing with no, excess materials or products or anything like that. So things like squats, things like wall sits, things like stretches and push-ups and yoga, like these are all things you can do at home. I don't want to get into like a regimented, you need to do 3 sets of 10 push-ups and then 5 sets of squats. Like that's all very unique to the person because everyone has different fitness goals and fitness capabilities at any given time. But any sort of compound movement that you can do that requires your body use lots of joints and lots of different muscles is good. One of the things we had talked about a little earlier was things that you can be doing during a stream that help you maintain energy.
Absolutely. One
thing that I try to do, and I'm not very good at sticking with it, but I'm trying to improve myself on it because I know it's important, is taking breaks during the stream.
Okay.
I know that there was a period of time in the Twitch growth life where if you weren't streaming, 16, 20 hours a day, you weren't doing it right.
Right.
And so people have this idea that stopping your stream or taking a break from your stream is kind of the cardinal sin when it comes to growing and increasing your influence. But it's important to remember that taking breaks and stretching it out and getting your blood moving is extremely important. Sitting is not the position that your body likes being in.
Yeah.
And so, standing up, touching your toes, doing some push-ups, doing some squats, getting the blood flowing, tightening your leg muscles is actually very important.
Oh, really?
If you're in a sitting position, your blood has the potential to pool slightly in your lower extremities. And the way that your body combats that normally is that you contract the muscles in your legs. So if you're walking or if you're standing up and sitting down, or if you're moving at all, the contraction of your muscles in your legs actually helps push the blood in your legs back up to the top half of your body.
I'm trying
so
it right
the more that you can do that throughout your stream, the better off you'll be, because if blood spends too much time in your legs, you could end up forming this is an extreme case, but if you spend too much time sitting without moving, there is potentiality for clots forming, and obviously that leads to bad things.
I mean, over time and repeated cases and all that stuff.
Yes,
it's like
absolutely.
If you're sitting down too long,
obviously
your legs
this is
sleep.
much more likely in people who are older, people who are
Sure.
Less fit, people who haven't had the opportunity to stay fit. But as streamers, like you said, spending 8, 10, 12 hours in a chair every day, you're at risk. Like, it doesn't matter how fit you are, that's a lot of sitting.
Yeah. Okay. Taking breaks is great advice. What do you do for taking breaks? I'm sure that people maybe don't have the stream set up to do that. You just like put up an overlay or something like that and be like, push up time.
I have a couple of scenes on OBS, and I'm sure many who are streamers know what OBS is.
Of course.
And I just put up a quick BRB screen sometimes. Sometimes I don't even completely stand out of the camera's focus, and I'll be standing back up here and, hey, I'm still here, don't worry.
Sure.
And I just do 10 squats, or I touch my toes for 30 seconds. It's a little bit easier when you're playing a game like Fortnite or a game like Siege, because there's moments in between each one of those games. Like in Siege, I get killed in the first 15 seconds about 70% of the time, and so you get 3 minutes there to do pretty much whatever you want, because you can talk to your stream if you're standing right here, but you can also stand up and be active and try and maintain some level of movement. But there's absolutely no shame in putting on your BRB screen and going down. I have to go downstairs. I'm up in the loft up here.
Sure.
But, going to the kitchen, getting a drink of water, walking around, run to the bathroom. I have very rarely seen an instance where I tell my stream, like, I'm going to be back in 3 or 4 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Very rarely do people end up going anywhere, especially if I turn the music up and give them something to listen to. And chat ends up talking to each other. And so it's like people get afraid of leaving the camera when I feel like there's very little to be afraid of.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's only reasonable physically and mentally to be able to take 3 or 4 minute breaks in 6, 7, 8 hour stints. Okay. That's awesome. I think we've got a lot of great information from this. I think we're about ready to wrap it up. We're talking about nutrition, supplements, and what's good and what's bad. I guess black coffee and G Fuel, and what was the other one you said?
It's called GamerSups GG.
GamerSups GG.
Yeah, and I'm not paid or promoted by any of those brands at all. I'm completely the third party. I'm coming at it from an outside standpoint on that one.
No, good advice is good advice. Do you have any other sort of health and fitness or even mental health advice before I leave you here for the audience?
Yeah, I'm a big proponent for maintaining a pretty healthy amount of activity in your life. There are a couple of streamers who actually promote how much they participate in healthy things. So like Bajira on Twitch, he's a very healthy streamer. He's prepping for a competition, so he actually lifts weights on stream.
Oh, really?
I know Darkness429 on Facebook. He posts every day when he's going to the gym. And I think making exercise a part of your daily life is extremely important. And this is not just from a physical standpoint, which it is very important.
Right.
But there's lots and lots of studies that have looked at how exercise can affect mental health.
Of course.
And how getting your blood moving and getting your brain working early in the morning or late at night after your stream, like at least doing it once a day, can really help you with a positive outlook, with maintaining a pretty healthy level of mental activity, because it can get a little droning standing in front of your computer for so many hours a day.
Of course.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's super well said. I'm at a desk all day too. We're here, 8-9+ hours a day. So that's good. We like to do stretching in the morning, and I bike to and from work as well as go to the gym.
Oh, hey,
so
look at you.
I like to think I've got some boxes checked, but there's always more to learn. And I'm glad I was able to talk to you about that. Just to wrap it up.
If you guys are at work, you can always do the plank challenge.
What is that?
All you got to do. So our finance department does this, and I think it's kind of funny that it's just like the most stereotypical bodybuilding thing they could do. But everyone in our finance department, every day at 12 o'clock noon, they all see who can hold the plank the longest. And are you familiar with what a plank is?
Yeah,
Yeah. So you're on the ground, you're holding kind of a push-up position. They allow people to either do the elbows or the hands down. But it's whoever wins.
Hands feels like cheating to me.
You try it and see what happens.
Okay.
It's not as easy, and your shoulders end up working a lot harder. So
interesting.
You're kind of trading off abs for shoulders on that one, and so you can kind of pick and choose. But yeah, every day they see who can last the longest on a plank, and then they keep tally of who's been winning the most over consecutive days, and whoever wins the most, I think it's every month, they get a prize. And so what started as a 30 to 45 second competition every day at noon is now up to a 3 or 4 minute competition every day at noon. And so it's it's just this short little thing, and it's just kind of fun that they do together. But man,
that's actually a good idea.
It does not take long to work up a sweat doing a plank for that long. That's a fun little way to try it out.
I hate planks. I used to be on the swim team, and I was just like, planks again.
Yeah, I was a water polo guy, so we did.
Really? Yeah. I'll often introduce that to the guys. I'm sure they'll be all over it. It almost, before we end this here, it almost brings into question like other ideas that you could do on stream, like putting in a button in your interactive that's like push-up challenge, or like do 20 push-ups, or like do sit-ups. Have you tried something like that?
I've thought about that. I actually knew a streamer. He stepped away from the streaming scene altogether, but he tried that. He put a push-up button, a sit-up button, a squat button, and I think there were 3 or 4 others. And he made the mistake of putting them on a really low cooldown and a really low cost, and so people were pressing them like all the time. And so what he would do is he had it so that when you pressed it, it put like a tally.
Sure.
It's like every time this button gets pressed, that's a push-up, and every time this button gets pressed, that's 2 squats.
Right.
And then every 20 minutes, he'd take everything that was in front of him and do that, and he would end up taking 10 or 15 minutes trying to catch up with all these things that they were telling him to do.
And that just never ends.
And I mean, it helped. He was very active, but I don't know, man. I feel like I want to play more video games than that.
For real.
Unfortunately, I'm also very restricted by space. The way our house works out, this loft area is pretty small. So the green screen that you see behind me, there's not a lot of wall back there. I only have about 5 feet here. So I want to be able to set up all the cool cameras and do all the cool stuff, but I think that may have to wait for the future on that one.
All right.
But yes, I have seen it. It has been done. There are a couple of Twitch streamers that really specialize in fitness, and so if you're ever curious, they exist on that IRL channel over there.
Nice. I have to take a look at that. Have to think about doing that kind of stuff in your streams and see if you can get some fitness involved in your streams if you're trying to lose weight. There's a bunch of cool ways to do it. Super cool.
The way I've kind of tried to supplement that, because I want to make sure that people know that this is something that I like to do.
Sure.
Is I've tried to create content kind of outside of the stream that focuses on that. So
oh, nice.
I've created YouTube videos that are informational, or podcasts, or blog posts. And I used to do lectures on stream, but those ended up taking way longer because I tend to ramble sometimes. But thankfully, it seems like people are interested in seeing this kind of stuff, and so I'm thankful that I've had the opportunity to have all these different routes of disseminating content.
Right.
And so far the reception has been very good, so I'm very happy with that.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, where can people find your content? Of course, there's mixer.com/ is it just TyFighter?
It is TyFighter559.
I knew it was something.
There is a just TyFighter out there somewhere, and I don't know who he is, but he's got
you gotta find him.
No, I am the 559. It's a reference to Fresno, California, where I grew up.
Oh, very nice. So mixer.com / TyFighter559. Where else can people find your content? We're just talking about your other fitness content.
Darn near everywhere at TyFighter559. So there's Twitter, there's Mixer, there's Instagram, Facebook. I do my podcast on anchor.fm / TyFighter559.
Great.
But I think it's also getting cross-posted to iTunes as well.
Okay, nice.
And then I release blog posts on Medium. So it's medium.com / TyFighter559. I don't know why they have the at in there.
Yeah, it's weird,
but yeah, so it's very easy to remember. If you find one, you've basically found them all. So
great. Sounds like there's a ton of great advice out there, especially if you're a streamer. Check out what TyFighter's got to offer. He's awesome. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to sit down and talk about this and add to our series. Hopefully by the end of it, we'll have a whole bunch of interesting things to provide to the streaming world, and that when people need to know something from a specific expert in the streaming world, they can turn to this series for advice like things on health and fitness while streaming. So
yeah, Zach, I love it. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be here and be a part of this. This is cool.
Awesome, man. One last question. What was your first Pokemon?
Ooh, I was on Red, I was a Squirtle.
I also did Squirtle.
Yeah, well, because it's the right decision.
It's objectively the right decision. All right,
I
man.
can get a lot of flack for this, but yes, it is.
No,
Squirtle is the
it
right
just
call.
is. Everyone loves Blastoise.
Objectively, the data shows it's Squirtle.
All right, man. Well, cheers. Thanks for talking to us, and we'll have to catch up soon.
Yeah, you too, Zach. I'll talk to you later.